profile. They're still they're doing things, but they don't have that financial contribution that they had from NCH, so they're looking for somebody else.
Yeah,
Hopefully they'll find somebody else.
they'll find someone in
Yeah,
Naples. They'll find
yeah.
someone. Yeah, that's a good thing. Well, let Jill know that we mentioned it at the board meeting today.
I will do that. She'll be thrilled.
All right, what time is it? Time to go.
9:28 I have here.
All right, and I'm on we're ready and on the Zoom YouTube. Lucy, can you hear us okay?
I think she's muted.
And who else is down there? Whose iPad? Is that Lindia?
Probably Lindy.
See any of them.
Hello.
Why can't
There.
I see
Okay.
anybody?
So who's
John Coyle, I guess, can't make it, right?
yeah,
Right.
I got 1, 4, 5.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is that Lucy?
Yes. Morning.
Okay,
morning.
we're waiting on Lindia to get in, and then who is iPad?
I'm iPad, I guess.
Lindy.
No, Lindia, are you both iPads? You're on 2.
I'm on at my phone.
Okay, so who is iPad?
Might
I
be
don't see
me.
it on my screen.
Well, looks like
I don't
we have
see Ken or John. Is that correct?
could be is it Ken Swallen? And John is at John's having his cataracts done today, so it could be Ken Swallen. But Ken, if it's you, unmute. Oh,
I think that iPad is just Lydia duplicate.
maybe. Either way, we're missing Ken and John. Paul, I think you're clear.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Now I
Oh,
can't get
there
my
you
video
are.
started.
You're just trying to get the video going?
Yep.
All right, so it is Ken.
There it is.
is.
Okay.
All right. Paul, you ready?
Yes. Mark, I'll leave it to you to determine whether or not we have a quorum.
You do have a quorum, and you're ready to go, and you are live on YouTube at this point in time.
All right, so let's call the meeting to order at 9:32. And Mark, do we have members speaking?
Nobody has signed up for member speaking, no.
Well, you emailed me an email this morning that you wanted in the minutes, I believe.
I will have that as a part of my GM report.
Okay.
Okay, so secretary's report and approval of the minutes, Lucy.
I have I'm so sorry. I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared.
It is July 25th.
Right.
Minutes.
Okay, I put forward a motion to approve the minutes of July 25th, 2024.
Okay, need a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to President's report. I do not have a report. I will comment later, particularly on the community survey. Outside of that, let's move to General Manager's report.
All right, all of you have my report probably in front of you as part of the packet. I'm doing this for the benefit of all those thousands of people that are watching this YouTube meeting. Stallman Irrigation for the irrigation project, jet and bore, and attaching to the valves are doing quite well. They're moving along. They have increased the number of days that they're Jet and Bore crew are going to be on property. So right now they're in Manatee, getting Manatee done. And then they're going to be moving out of Manatee. And when they get done with Manatee, on to Wildcat. They have completed pretty much the Jet and Bore for all of the condo and coach homes, all of Deer Creek, Willow Bend, Preserve, and the common areas around the clubhouse and out on 41. So what they're doing right now is they're transferring the operational components. In other words, the timing and I guess if you want to call it the watering windows and schedules for those individual valves in those neighborhoods to Expert, and Expert is putting that all on under their control. I have also given the management companies, each of the management companies, a login and availability to pass on to their landscape companies to be able to do wet checks and to manage their irrigation. Now, with that, the baseline system has been set up for the watering windows for the condos and coach homes, specifically to monitor and match the amount of water that the pump station can produce when it's operational. So if the pump station is running and it's producing 200 gallons a minute, we want to make sure that the condominiums that are, let's just say it's a building, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, that building 8 comes on at midnight and runs for so long, then it clicks to the next one, clicks to the next one, so that we're not running 200 gallons a minute with all of them on at once, and then nobody's getting any water. That was the key to the system to begin with in the first place. So they have the opportunity to go in and wet check. They need to monitor their system, turn off their valves. They'll be able to do all of that to be able to replace if there's a break or a head missing, or they need to put in new sod or shrubbery. They can monitor and manage their own system. For the rest of the community, Expert, as our contracted landscaper, will have the opportunity to monitor and take care of all the rest. I am getting a training on the baseline system, hopefully today after lunch, to be able to go online, because it's a cloud-based system, log in, and then I'll be able to monitor and see the entire system as it comes online, so that I'll be able to kind of see how things are going and at least help monitor that system from my end to the condos and to the landscapers if there need be, while we get this thing off the ground. So that's moving forward. The sidewalk repairs, Ron Martin, I think, has just got one more pour to do over across from the clubhouse. Most of the other sidewalk repairs have been done. We're going to make sure that the maintenance crew is going to be driving around today, making sure that there aren't any sidewalks that they've missed that we need to make sure that we get taken care of while he's in town.
How many feet have we covered?
I want to say there was probably 600 linear feet, at least, probably. It was $18,000 worth of work that was done. Lots of sidewalks, a lot of tree roots cut, which is just an ongoing situation for us and every community that has oak trees. So,
And we're one of the few that have sidewalks, so.
yeah. So the Wildcat pool heater, this is just an old item, and kind of just taking a look at it. The Wildcat pool,
And the largest increase posed has been his tariffs. I will say this too, and this is.
somebody's,
Yeah, it's off.
okay. So the Wildcat pool is heated during the winter months. We've had a heat pump down there for a number of years. We have tried to make it continue working. It's finally on its last legs and it doesn't work. We've replaced the internal structures. We've replaced I guess the whole guts and the electrical components for the timers, the heat thermostat sensors and everything else that's going on there. They don't make it anymore and they don't make it as big. So in order to replace it, we'd have to figure out how to replace it with 2 heat pumps, which have also gone up in price. So we looked and talked around about propane because we don't have natural gas down at that end of the community, but we do have natural gas here at the clubhouse, and that's how the main pool is heated with our Raypak natural gas or propane heaters. They can be dual fuel either way. They're very efficient and they're very effective. So we looked into that. We got a quote, which you see in front of you, from South Florida Gas. They're on Alico Road there, and they would give us a tank. We could put it down underground, which most people do have in their yards right now if they have a generator system for their house. There's several of those throughout the community. And then that buried tank would be supplying propane to the pool heater, which would be the same kind of pool heater that we have at the main pool. And what that does is it gives us an opportunity, if we have a thermostat or a heat exchanger or a pieces part or an internal valve, we can buy parts that would maintain that pool as well as the main pool all at the same time. So you see the cost there. It's somewhere right around $7,100. I'd say $7,500 by the time we get done. That's just something that we need to put into the system. It will affect the reserve study for Wildcat, but I think it's going to be more efficient in the long run than running 2 monster heat pumps. The one thing about heat pumps is they're not really heaters. They are, their ambient temperature, once it gets below 40 degrees, 35 degrees, or 38 degrees, they really can't produce any heat. So the pool doesn't really get all that warm. We've been lucky with the warm winters we've had, but in the past, when we had cold winters, that pool just never got up to temp. That wouldn't be the case with the propane. We don't feel that the cost of the propane, one tank probably should last us at least 3 to 4 months or more during those winter months. So the cost would be more efficient than the electrical usage. So that's that. The next thing that's on there is the main pool chillers. Now,
Mark,
do you
the
Oh,
pool
do you-
heater's on the agenda. Do you want to see if they want to make a motion?
Yes, I was just
Next.
thinking the same thing. Where is Steve Mara? Is he here?
Yeah, I was gonna ask Mark, do you know what kind of financial impact it'll have on their fees, or do we not know that?
I don't think it's going to have any real financial impact on it because the reserve study is a 30-year pooled reserve, and I think if it is, it's going to be $1 or $1.50 or whatever. There has to be some increases down there to just to maintain the existing systems. But it's $5.61 today. It's probably going to be maybe $6.10. In the following years or so. I don't think you're going to see, it's not going to go up to $10 a month for the people down in Wildcat, that's for sure.
Okay, so that being said, I would make a motion that we accept the proposal for Mark on our agenda for the Wildcat pool heaters.
Okay, I need a second.
A second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries. Thank you. Mark, carry on, please.
Next, since we're on pools, we're going to talk about the main pool. So the 4 or 5 or 6 ladies that are using the pool on a daily basis down all summer long, are requesting that they have a cooler pool to be in during the summer months. The pool resides somewhere at about 90 to 91 degrees right this time of year, except for when it rains. Today, it's probably down to about 87 because of the rains that we had yesterday. Every time it rains, it cools the pool down. But when it's not raining and it is hot, like it has been in the 95 to 96 range, that pool gets hot and it's less attractive to go to because it doesn't cool you off in the summertime. So the ladies have asked, is there any way to do that? And we've investigated. We found out that you can get these AquaCal chillers to hook up to try to manage and keep it a little cooler. They're expensive. They're probably fairly. They'll increase the cost of electricity to manage that. We have to figure out where they're going to go because the amount of space and room down at the pool area is limited. We think we can stuff them in over by the existing heaters because they kind of have to be in line with that same piping that's going through the heaters. We feel that we have to have a kind of a offset and have it go through the chillers, but it still has to be on that same line that goes from the pool through the pump station, through the heaters, then back to the pool again, because that's just the flow that's there. We don't have any way to, we don't have any like V's that can one side heat and then one side go another. It's just the one pipes running around that hook up to the pool. One has to remember that the underground piping that is surrounding the pool and in the pump room is as old as when the pool was installed. So, and I don't know when that was, but it was quite a long time ago. So we
Mark,
can't.
where is the need for this coming from? Where is I
would have to say the people that use the pool on a daily basis. You've got your people that are down there doing their aerobics on a daily morning basis. Those women there have really been the people that have brought it up to me.
Mark, why in 30 years has this come up now? How did people survive for the first 30 years?
Yeah, that was my next question.
I would just have to say that it's either global warming or we're in a very hot spell for the past couple of years where the waters have been warmer than usual. However, this morning, I'm sure that it's nice because we got about 2.5 inches of rain yesterday and that cools that pool right down just like it does mine. Mine resides at about 88 and because I'm on the north side of the building and when it rains like it did yesterday, I'm down to 85, 86. So the only thing that I would have to say is that if it was marketed that we could take those 6 people and we could market to the community that we have a refreshingly cooler pool than it used to be, that we may get more people down there to enjoy it, which may benefit in some small way the food and beverage operation. However, that's something I don't know. Well, one anecdotal remark, I went out to my community managers and asked if anybody had this, and no one does in the community situation. Now, I think you may have somebody like the Dunes may have that for their pool, but the regular bundled communities have not installed one.
So I would like to add to that.
Go ahead, Lynn.
So I sent you both an article from the Naples Daily Times, how hot the water is right now in the Gulf. And so we know our pool is equally as hot, if not more. It wasn't just the aerobic ladies, although I guess you could count somebody who goes down there and walks a day and a half in the water for her Parkinson's. And she said you can hardly breathe, it's so hot. The other day I was up swimming and I talked to a couple who said that they were in the pool when somebody had a thermometer with them and they pulled it out and it was 96 degrees. So the article in the paper said how unhealthy that is on people's hearts. It raises their body temperature. These are people that are here in the summer. Many of them live here year round. They have very few amenities in the summer as far as parties or events, or there's one dinner a week. No clubs are active. Book club is going on, but they go down to swim and it is very hot. And I went in the pool and it was very hot. I don't think it's healthy. We're talking about being a blue zone community and we're all worried about what we eat and how much we walk and run. But there are people who exercise in the pool and they swim laps. And it's not just the women, but men and women are up there swimming laps. And the thing about Southwest Florida is you get up in the morning, it's hot. You go to bed at night, it's hot. It's not like up north where it cools down in the evening. You can go out and the pool's a little cooler, the air is cooler. Not here. You go up at 8 in the morning, it's hot. It's hotter at 1. It's hotter at 4. And at 8 o'clock, it's still hot. So to me, you know, we always say the pool is the most important thing. And if it's too hot in the summer, you don't have to run it if it's around 90 degrees. You don't have to use that chiller. But whatever cause is causing it to be warmer in Southwest Florida, we all know it is. There's no question about it. The
Mark,
summers are hot.
does this chiller chill the entire pool?
Yes.
And it is operated by electricity?
Yes. That's why it's like running 2 very large HVAC units, refrigeration units, that are going to be hooked up to the existing pumping system. That's why I say that the cost of the chillers are around $5,000, but the need to put together a panel that's going to be able to handle their 40 amps a piece. So I need at least another 100 amp side panel, and then I'm going to have to put them onto the existing system with piping and valving so that they can run efficiently. So it is a little more of a project than just buying 2 things and plugging them in. So it'll take a little bit of work to do it, and honestly they'll work and be on during the summer and off in the winter, just like the heaters are right now. They're off all summer and on in the winter.
I'm wondering if we could buy some time and let's figure out what the actual project would cost. This is more of a project to me rather than 2 units. I think, but between the electrical panel, the plumbing that's involved, the electricity that's involved, plus the 2 units themselves, how we hook them all up, this is a project to me. And I'd like to have a bottom line figure. So rather than dismiss this thing or accept it as it is, I think we need a little more information. Then secondly, it would be my thinking maybe to ask some people what they think about this. I mean, this will be a cost to everybody. I'd like to know that this is a popular project before we launch into it.
Paul,
Lynn.
I think Mark has the figures pretty much. And I think we're talking under 20,000, like maybe 15,000. Now we put a lot of shade canopies up over a lot of places for the sun, for the heat. So I don't think the money is a lot of money. I mean, we do a lot of things in this community that costs a lot more than $20,000. So,
I guess
I'm-
my only concern is, I mean, we can do this. It'll cost us that amount of money, but it'll cost us probably half of that every year after. Also, I just want to make sure that this is something that's popular with everyone and that it'll be used, and we just don't have a chiller and very few people are using it. That's my concern at this point.
well, I think you would use it every day. It's over 92 degrees in the pool. If it's over 90 degrees in the pool or 92, you're gonna chill it a little bit. And you're not gonna chill it.
Let's hear from someone else. Steve Mara, you had the pool project last year. What's your opinion about this?
Again, I think, I agree with Lenny, it's a good idea, but there's no rush to make a motion and vote on it today. Even if we vote on it today, it's not gonna be in and operational until next summer anyway. So why don't we get a little more information, put it on the agenda for next meeting? But in general, I think it's a good idea, and I do think summers are hot. Since I've lived in South Florida, I thought the last 2 summers were way hotter than in the past. I don't know if it's, global warming or whatever the heck it is, but the last 2 summers have been really, really hot. And, I would say more than 5 or 6 people use it. In the morning, there's lappers there every day doing their laps, and then there's the aerobics class, and then there's the walkers. So, it's not a ton of people, but it's probably more than 5 or 6.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I would say let's look at it a little more information, but in general, I think it's a good idea, and I do agree with the Blue Zone. If we can get 2 people out of their houses to go to the pool and do some exercise in the summertime, then I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. Again, with that Blue Zone idea, let's start promoting people getting out of their house and getting their heart rate up a little bit.
So Rick and Brownie, you're down there during the summer. What are your opinions?
I look at what our pool is, it probably is in the high 80s most of the time with most of this heat. The golf is a different story. I mean, they've had indications down in the Keys where it's been calculated at 100 degrees. I agree with Steve. I think this is something we should pursue. I'm not sure from a timing standpoint, from a sense of urgency standpoint, whether it's something we would need to do for this season. I guess I would want to know what the project completion time would be. If we're getting into the fall, it may not be a sense of urgency issue. So I would agree with Steve on that point. I do think it's important. If we can get more people to use it, it's hard to quantify additional F&B revenues that we might or might not get. But if we do get more people there, that would be a plus. We can't. That's we're just guessing where that's going. But I don't think we should scrap it. I think it's a good plan. I agree with Lindy. We're just spending more money on other things in the community. If we have the money available, it's not going to break the bank. I don't know. I think we should definitely pursue it though.
Okay, Brownie.
Well, I never go to the pool, so I don't have any personal opinion about it. My concern would be kind of operationally. One of the questions, Mark, who decides when we turn the cooler off and the heater? I assume this cooler has a thermostat on it, right? Is that
Correct? Yep.
So who's going to manage when we turn the cooler off and the heater on? In other words, who's going to check the pool every day? And because the two aren't tied together, are they?
No, they're all just run on.
Thermostat that turns one on and another off. So how are we going to manage that transition?
They're all
thermostatically
controlled.
Yeah, but who's going to manage that? When we decide the cooler off and turn the heater on and the heater on every year, how are we going to manage that?
The heaters would come on today if it got really cold in the pool. They're thermostatically controlled. So there's no turning them on or turning them off. It's all thermostatically controlled, just like your air conditioning unit at your house.
But theoretically, if you're doing that, you could get a situation where the cooler and the heater are both running then. That's my concern. we could
Probably.
end up running electricity to heat the pool and cool it at the same time. They
I-
need to be separated and there needs to be a clear split. But trust me, it'll end up running the cooler and the heater sometimes.
We check the pool every single
Yeah,
day.
running the heater in the summer.
No, and we check we're at the pool every single day because that's the law.
But you don't have the heater on at all, and even on thermostat in the summer, do you? Do you
Yep.
turn it off or do you just set the
The
thermostat?
water's running through those heaters right now. Because there is no other way to manage that system. They're running, the water's running through the heaters right now. They're just not on.
Then what do you set the heaters? How do you set the heaters to keep them from actually heating? Maybe that's part of the problem. We're
Because
heating in the summer.
Because when the water temperature is 85, the heaters don't come on. When the water temperature drops to 84 degrees, the heaters come on to get it to 85, and then they shut off. So
It's
anytime,
like your thermostat at home. You can set like your heat to turn on if it gets below 65 in your house, and your AC to turn on if it gets hotter than 70. Like
Well, but this is different. You have two different systems. So you're in your home, you have one thermostat controlling cooler and heating. Here we have two thermostats controlling, one of them controlling heating and one controlling cooling. I would guarantee you there'd be times we're going to be running the heater and the cooler at the same time, unless we can somehow figure out how that not to happen.
we have
All
somebody.
right, let's figure out how to make
Murphy's
sure
law
that
works. In other words, if you've got that cooler and heater both running at the same time on separate thermostats, trust me, there'll be times they'll both be running. They will be heating the pool and cooling the pool. So I think we need to make sure we somehow engineer that to make sure that doesn't happen. Maybe they need to be put on somehow on one thermostat if they can.
Okay, we got that. I would recommend, unless there's a need for more discussion on this, I think we move this to the next meeting. And Mark, why don't you develop a plan? It sounds to me, unless I'm wrong, I want to hear it now, but it sounds to me like the board is willing to move forward on this. Why don't you present to us, Mark, a plan on how this is going to happen, when it will happen, and we can deliberate this at the next board meeting.
Okay, Paul, I have a question.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, well, I guess two questions or comments. One, Mark, you said no other club that your managers have anything like this, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And second of all, do we have any data on this that says, okay, how many days that it gets above 90 or whatever it is that we would actually use this? I think we should have some data before we start spending money, even though it's not that much and we spend money on other stuff. I agree, but we shouldn't be wasting any money. So if this happens 10 times a year, it's not worth it. We should get some data on and how long has this been going on that we should be able to say, okay, if it's 50 days, yeah, but if it's 10 throughout the summer, I don't think it's worth it at all. So anyway, those are my comments. We should get some data.
That's why I think Mark needs to present us with a plan to say, here's what I looked into and here's my recommendation. We could move forward, and here's the information that I heard the board needed at the last board meeting. And then we can deliberate this another time. But it seems to me from the discussion that the board is willing to go forward on this. They have a few questions. So Mark can work on those questions in the interim. I don't think we're going to solve it today because there are too many questions.
Got it. So moving on, I have one more item on my report. This is something that I received, Paul received as well, and I think maybe Steve Mara, you might have been on this too. This is just from our friend Gus Hevia. Paul wanted to pass this on to the board. I just want to say this is coming from Gus down in Wildcat. It says, Mark, 2 short comments, 1 positive. 1, I want to thank the board of directors, especially the president and the vice president and your entire unrivaled staff for the fantastic job you guys do around here. I have developed at least 24 communities as large or larger than Sterling Oaks in Southwest Florida as division president for a national home builder. And in my 25 years in the construction business, Sterling Oaks has to win the prize for the best community maintenance along with low fees. It's also a great place to live. Thanks for repairing all the tripping hazards in our 2 miles of sidewalks. The list of improvements at Sterling Oaks in the last 11 years that I've lived here is probably over 50 projects. I still remember the weed patch where the pickleball courts are located now. So and that his two is he has a landscaping company, which he says the Expert, which is the best company we've had in 11 years. We need to have them replace some sod in certain areas. The rest of the community looks good. And thanks again for your outstanding staff and excellence in community management. We've had a great board of directors before, but none better than currently with Paul and Stephen at the helm. So it's a kudos letter to you as the board of directors from one of our residents, and we thought we should pass that on to all of you, so you can give yourselves a pat on the back.
Well, let me give everyone a pat on the back too, because this is an excellent board. And as you know, we get plenty of complaints on other angles. So when we get something like this, it needs to be shared. We have an excellent board and things are going very well right now. But I also want to mention that we have an excellent GM and assistant GM. And Mark and Cezanne have been the stability and they have been here for well over a dozen years now. And kudos to our staff too. Okay, enough of patting ourselves on the back. Let's move along to the next item.
Before we move off the general manager, can I ask a question, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. Mark, I received some messages yesterday about some of the work that's being done in Manatee. I guess the crew is leaving stains of oil and skid marks on some of the driveways and sidewalks, and it's a particular concern. I know you've heard about it, but are we doing anything to address it?
It will be just like it's been that way throughout the rest of the community.
Okay.
They're going to take care of it all. It's just we've had that report from each of the communities they've been in, and
okay, I'll just let them know. I just wanted to tidy it up. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Part of a project, and
I know. I just doing my job.
there you
Well,
okay, thank you.
Well, I have one
Yes,
question.
John.
Mark, I think we all received, I know I did, you did, and I think Paul, email from someone talking about the poor quality of the roads or the resurfacing of the roads. Have we looked into that, or is that legit? I'm not down there to see it, so I'm just curious if anything's coming of that and if it's correct.
that's just what they're talking about is the seal coating, what the aesthetics of the road look like. The asphalt's all fine. It's whether or not it looks shiny and black. Next year in the reserve study, we have about $44,000 to do the seal coating. And those are going to be in the worst areas, probably through some of the condo areas that need it badly. And I'm not sure about the rest of the community. I'll have to take a look at some of those areas as well that are on a, I think it's a 4-year rotational program for the seal coating. So,
But I mean, he was questioning the quality of it. Shouldn't look as bad as it does as soon as it does. Is that any merit to that, or?
You know, I think that down here in the Florida rains and summer heat and everything else like that the seal coating doesn't seem to last for 7 or 8 years like it does in other areas. And this is that's why we have it on a 4-year rotational program, because that's all you can do is put it down, and after that period of time, it needs to be done again. So,
do we need to consider a 3-year rotation?
Different vendor?
No, well, we've had 3 different vendors. It's all the same. I mean, we haven't. It's the seal coating is the seal coating. It's, you know, so I think that whether or not we want to do it, excuse me, every 3 years or every 4 years, I think it's 4 years. We've had one complaint in the past I don't know how many years.
Okay, that's fine. Just
On
following
that-
up.
On that subject, while we're talking about it, I'm not saying it needs, I just wanted to bring up the point, the Sanctuary Point Drive and Court have never been redone. I don't know if it needs that. What is our plan for that, or what's, all the other streets have been done, so.
Right, and that's, you're in there. It's just that roadway was completed, I think, in 2004, 2002. And so there you've got, and it's in fairly good shape. So once we see the alligator cracking and the problems with the roads, I think that, I think you're in the schedule for the next either 2 or 3 years from now to have your roads completely done, Brownie.
Okay, I mean, I agree, it doesn't look that bad. I was just wondering if we had a plan on when we thought it would be done. We don't
It's
know.
there.
That's the one that hasn't been done.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we do have a plan. It's down the road a bit to
Yep.
be pumping. Okay, any other questions of Mark? Let's move to John Mulligan and the treasurer's report.
All right. For July, our balance sheet's still looking good. Our operating cash is 621,000. Total cash is $2 million. In the month of July, we had net income of negative $50,000 versus a budget of $11,000 for an unfavorable variance of $61,000. Tenants had an unfavorable variance to budget for the month of $6,000. This was due to timing of the expenses catching up, as we have identified in the past. Year-to-date favorable variance to budget is $12,000 and the net income of $68,000. In July, the expenditures coming from reserves was $92,000, and year-to-date expenditures are $170,000. Social was pretty much on budget for the month. Year-to-date favorable variance to budget is $22,000. This is made up of lower sales, which is more than offset by lower cost of goods sold and payroll. Common areas had unfavorable variance for the month of $27,000. This was due to timing of hardwood trimming and replacement landscaping. Year-to-date favorable variance is $22,000. G&A had unfavorable variance to the budget for the month of $4,000 and has a year-to-date favorable variance to the budget of $34,000. The biggest culprit in this is the lower than budget home sales. I expect most of this to remain. The year-to-date net income as of 7/31 was $35,000 versus a budget of $46,000 for unfavorable variance of $11,000. We took a pretty big hit in July, which got us back to a little under budget. But we were expecting this, as we've been saying all along, that it's been timing of the expenses. Any questions on that? Brownie.
The irrigation project total that we had, at least was approved by the community, was like 1.3 million. So why did we show the irrigation project total as $100,000 more? Why is that 1,428, not 1,335?
Let me look. Well, the 1,335 was the cost of the actual irrigation. You have to put that in there. The cost to our outside expert, Russ Geiger. We also had to throw in there
$100,000?
Well, let me finish, Brownie. I'll get to that. Okay. Russ Geiger was $40,000, and we also have contingency in there. That got us to the 1.38.
But those costs weren't in the number that we had the community approve? Should it really been the correct number then? We should have
The
had.
number that went out to community was 1.438. That's what all the numbers were calculated on when we did it per month, per community and everything else.
I mean, I looked at basically the board never approved 1.4. That's all what I'm questioning versus 135. Any other comments? Paul, do you understand my question?
No.
There's contingencies though, too,
Project
right?
approved with 1.3 and something, 1.3 million, and this was 1.4 million or something. So why the $100,000 difference?
I just explained that, Brian. The difference is those two amounts. So
But
the
shouldn't it have
project,
been approved, though? That's the point I'm making. I've never seen that number before.
Well,
I don't think the board ever approved that number. The community never approved that number.
I'm not sure what you're looking at, Brownie, but we've always had a 1.428 number out there that was sent out to the community and everything like that. That's what all the numbers are based on.
I'd like for you to show me somewhere in the board minutes that we approved 1.4 million for the irrigation project.
So where are you going with this, Brownie?
My point is the board never approved 1.428 for the irrigation project. They only approved actually the community approved 1.3. The board actually never approved the contract, actually. So that's my question is we were kind of loosey-goosey on approving the irrigation and number, both what we gave the community and then actually the board actually never approved the contract. You go back through the minutes, we never actually saw the contract and approved the Stallman contract.
Okay, Mark and Cezanne, do you have any background information? Anybody home?
Well, yeah, we're here. I can tell you that I don't think that the board itself, they approved the project in concert with the loan and the members' approval of the project and the money that the assessment was for. The actual contract for Stallman, the revised one, probably was never, I guess, specifically voted on at the board meeting with the contractual obligations therein. In other words, they approved Stallman, you approved everything, the people voted for it, but the contract itself, the wording of the contract, if you want to call it the devil in the details, Brownie and I actually met yesterday afternoon to go over a lot of this stuff, and we both kind of agree that the specific 17-page contract with all the termination clauses, everything, which was legally approved, I guess, and managed by Jason, which we tacitly said that that's good to go to the community, was never really brought forth to the board as a separate situation to approve. In other words, we approved the project and we approved the vendor, we approved the loan, we approved everything else, and the community approved all of the assessments and everything, but the contract itself with its specific verbal parts was not.
Not only was that contract not approved, it was never presented at a board meeting, period. I went through all the board minutes and I couldn't remember for sure.
All right, Brownie, what do you
never saw the
propose?
final contract and approved it.
Brownie, what do you propose as a resolution?
Well, one resolution is we could approve the contract, but we need to discuss it, and it really relates also to this issue about leaving out Sanctuary Point common areas, which would have been caught, at least would have been caught by me had the contract been presented with what it covered. So, that's the answer
All right,
to the question. It's
so
not
later,
to approve the contract.
all right,
But
so
we
later,
need to have it presented and have people an opportunity to look at it.
all right, we're going to discuss Sanctuary Point a little later in the agenda here, so maybe that'll resolve.
I mean, this really
issue.
came up in looking into the Sanctuary Point because I tried to go in and figure out why the sanctuary point was left out. And really, there's no explanation, although I was very aware of the possibility and mentioned it a couple of times. I would have clearly caught it if we would have seen the contract with, evidently, there's a map that actually shows where the location of the places are that which the board never saw.
All right, Mark, why don't we review this with Jason, see if we can approve a contract, develop a look at it, approve it, and let's move forward in this agenda and see where that takes us. Does that make sense?
Can I just ask one question?
Okay.
When we approved the contract to take it to the people, didn't we approve it at that time? Or did we just take any old?
It was an estimate. It was a proposal. It's not the actual contract where you get into things about terms and all of that. So there's there's difference in approving that we're going to spend 1.3 and then looking at the contract on the terms of it, how it's done.
Right,
And,
I was asking. Okay, thank you.
you know, nobody's saying we approved the money, but we never approved the contract and how the money was going to be spent.
Okay, I understand. Okay. thanks.
Question, Paul. Okay, the project just started. It's almost complete. Is this even necessary to go back and approve something that's almost already done?
That's why I'm suggesting Jason should intervene at this point and give us some legal guidance.
Okay.
All right, let's carry on. And where are we? Collection policy, John.
Yeah, I have to make a couple motions here. Okay, the first one we'll do is delinquency account. Make a motion to suspend the following members as described in the Sterling Oaks collection policy and refer the account to our attorney to pursue all legal remedies available, if not current by September 1st, 2024. A007 in the condos, R0066 Wildcat, S0063 in Sanctuary Point.
I'll
Okay, I
second.
need a second. Rick, did you second that?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. The second one is more just terminology. I'll make a motion to add to the collection policy. Once the overdue balance, including all late fees and legal fees, is fully paid, all suspended privileges shall be immediately restored. That's it.
I second.
Ronnie.
I said I second.
Oh, I see. Okay, all in favor? Signify. First of all, any discussion?
What have we done in the past?
We've pretty much done that. It's just what there was some question whether they had to be current on their the dues that were due this month.
Okay.
And so we're saying, no, it's not this month's dues, it's a prior month's due. So we're just updating the wording. It's
Okay.
You want to add
Thank you.
anything that Suzanne, or is that pretty much it?
That's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Credit
Third
card.
motion, I could add some clarity to it later on, but the motion is members are allowed to pay for any of their purchases in one of two ways, either member account or credit card. If paying by credit card, it will be 3% surcharge added.
Okay, I need a motion.
That was my motion. You mean a second?
Okay. Need a
I'll
second.
second for discussion.
I need a second first.
Second, I'll second.
Rick Sanders seconds. Okay, now discussion. Lynn?
Aye.
Yeah, I just have a question. When you have non-members who pay with their credit card, do they get charged the 3%?
Yes.
Okay,
And how this came up was, well, last month when I was going through the financials and looking at all the different accounts at variances, noticed that this account was almost 100% over what we had in the budget. So we started looking into it, and it seems more and more people are charging. The costs are getting higher. I mean, the charges are getting higher because the costs are going up. And we said, okay, why? And then looked at the credit card charges are going through the roof. And so we said, okay, how do we combat that? And it was start doing like pretty much every other restaurant down there or up here, or other even golf clubs up here are doing. When you want to use a credit card, you pay 3% extra. You know, we thought along, you know, the finance committee agreed that why should we be financing somebody to get miles? And we charge $15. Someone's allowed to charge their tennis dues, and we charge $15 for that. But their tennis dues could be close to $2,000. So they're getting, we're paying $60 for and only getting $15 in return. So the thought is, why should the rest of our community be paying for someone else to get miles?
Will that 3% be added on at point of sale?
Yes.
Yes.
Just
Okay.
like at a restaurant, when you go to a restaurant now, most places have, you're paying by credit card, it's 3% at it.
Okay. My other question is, are we going to communicate this to the community? Because I know a lot of people like to get their points. That's why they pay with their cards.
I agree.
And I think it's going to be a contentious issue if we don't communicate it up front.
Yeah,
It's
there'll
still going to
definitely
be a sore point, but I think we need to be clear on making sure the community knows.
Right, and they also have an option to charge it with no extra fee.
To
Yeah,
their
I
account.
agree. I just want to make sure that we're transparent. That's all.
Right, and I think that goes without saying. We would e-blast that throughout the community so they're aware, and
Thank you.
certainly more than once.
Could I ask a question?
Brownie's next, I
I've got
think.
my hand.
Brownie?
Okay, I'm very much against this. We live in a credit card community world. This comes up all the time. I don't use a credit card at Sterling Oaks just because we have the account, but I have not paid a surcharge on a single credit card at any restaurant or any place in Naples in the last, I don't ever win. And I just, the whole idea of using credit cards and the convenience, and even from the seller or us using credit card, there's a reason for it and there's a reason of cost. So I think just in principle that we shouldn't go this route. And I agree with Lucy. I think people will be very unhappy about it. It wouldn't affect me personally, but I just think in general, if we're going to live in a credit card world, we should realize there's a cost to the seller or to the vendor, and all the industries in the world do this. Some people do put surcharges on, but I don't see it very often. And if I do, I just don't do business with that particular. I think it'll actually hurt our overall income into F&B if we don't allow people to charge with credit cards without a surcharge.
Well, I can empathize with your stance, Brownie, and I certainly do, but I can't balance that against John's financial report. And we're running a business here, so that kind of
business, but we could actually lose business over this, and that's the reason I'm telling you, restaurants that do it and people that do this, people will avoid them, and they will avoid us perhaps. So in the overall, I don't think if you gain anything, you may.
But we would only.
It's hard to measure, but I'm sure we'll lose some business.
We'll only lose business to non-residents because residents can always charge. So I think I have to. Lynn, go ahead.
So back to the tennis member, does he have the option of putting it on his member charge? Or does that, he have to pay it all at once? If
In
it doesn't,
regards
on
to
the
their
credit-
membership,
yeah, can he
If it's a-
put his
if it's a
tenant,
brand new member that comes to the club to buy a membership, they could pay with a credit card with, if approved, the 3% fee, or they can pay by check for no fee. If it's
so
a
but they
renewing
can't put it
member,
on their member card?
well, if it's a brand new member, no, they don't have a member account yet. They need to pay for their membership first before they become a member.
No, I know, but how about a
If
member?
if it's a new or a reoccurring member, they get billed just like your HOA dues. It goes on their statement, and any new member after a certain year are required ACH. So most of our tennis members, our non-residents, are all set up on ACH. But
So
if
it
they
comes out
prefer, it comes out not
Automatic payments.
monthly, it comes out in full upon their renewal date.
And so that's why they put it on their credit card, because then they don't
No,
have,
they're on ACH.
Comes out of their bank
Non-resident
account.
non-resident tennis members are set up on ACH, so it
it
automatically
comes
comes
out
out of their
all at
checking
once.
account.
all at
Correct.
once.
Yes.
That's my point. And that's why they probably use the credit card.
No, tennis members are not using credit cards. Tennis members are set up for automatic withdrawal from their checking account. Your
New ones.
biggest driver of credit card usage is credit cards used like at the cabana.
Okay.
Or like rental fees, which can easily go on a homeowner's account and they can pay by check. Those are kind of your big ticket drivers here.
Okay.
So basically, this is my point. The only way you can use credit cards at Sterling Oaks is really the F&B or maybe buying something in the shop or something like that. So I would be concerned that we would lose business and that we would actually come out behind. And that's the whole theory of credit cards. That's the reason businesses pay the 5%, 4%, 6%, whatever it is, because it generates business. And if you put a surcharge on, you basically negated that, and you're going to probably drive away some business. Hard to measure, but the whole world, business world, has accepted the idea that there's a value for the vendor, the seller, to pay for credit cards in order to promote business.
So
Mark?
Ronnie, if I wanted to buy a hamburger at the Cabana, I could use a credit card or I could charge it. So
You
if
could
there's
use
going
a
to be
credit card if you wanted
if
to.
there's going to be a 3% surcharge on that hamburger, if I use a credit card, how would the Cabana lose business? If I say I don't agree with that philosophy, I can always charge it on my account.
But
So
if your children were here, Paul, and they went and bought something, they would pay it with a credit card. Unless you
And they're
want to put
Or-
all their stuff
Or
on
you
your,
can give them the ability to
give
charge
them
to
the-
your account.
A number.
It's a convenience fee, guys. It's a convenience fee, and I've seen it all over Naples. I understand what Brownie's saying. It's not nice, but it is happening. I mean, if you go to the gas station, you pay cash, you get 3% less. You pay with your credit card, you pay 3% more.
I think we're all familiar with the
Yeah.
concept.
Buy a concert ticket.
John, let's do this again. John, let's go back to how
Wait,
what you
Mark's
discussed.
got a comment. Let Mark say something first.
Couple things. One, it's important to know that the ways that people pay for items here at the club, whether or not they member charge, whether or not they use their credit card, whether or not they pay by check, or whether or not it's ACH automatic withdrawal. One thing that has to remain as a part of this is that no cash can be utilized for payment of any goods or services within the club. And that's because somebody, why don't we just go ahead and I'll give you the money in cash, because that way I don't have to worry about putting it on my charge. I don't have to do anything. There's an inherent policy that we don't take cash, but I think that if you're going to make sure that if you change, especially with this policy, we want to just reiterate the fact that you can't use cash at the club for goods or services in any of the departments because that's a policy, an internal policy. I just want to make sure that everybody will understand that so that we don't have any issues. Secondly, the average for the communities that are bundled communities in the area, the average, if you want to call it budgetary number that the managers are using in the bundled communities for surcharge on credit cards is somewhere around $30,000 to $40,000 a year. I think that John, correct me if I'm wrong, our possible year-end surcharge cost for bank charges on credit cards is going to run us around what, 28 to 30,000? Is that correct, or is it higher than that? You're muted.
Yes, be around 30,000. The account will be around 40, but that includes some bank charges. So we'll be around $30,000 plus on the credit card fees. And no, Mark, doesn't most all your other communities have this in effect?
Yes, they all have a surcharge right now in effect because of that, because of the cost of doing business. So they budget that, but they all have it 3 to 4%. The average for F&B is 2 on some clubs, 3 to 4 on all other items, including payment for ancillary fees such as if you've got guests and they're paying card fees, or if they're buying merchandise or Cabana stuff and they've got guests in town, they charge a surcharge on it.
Okay.
Paul, what were you gonna say?
By the way, Mark, you made a good point. The fact that we don't take cash is another reason not to do this. In other words, places, if you go to other places, if you don't want to use your credit card, you always have the option of doing cash. So someone comes in and they don't want to use a credit card, I don't think they're going to have their checkbook where they can write out for the hamburger. I think overall, we're just going to be driving people away.
No, okay.
So John, my question
Yes.
is, how did all this come up to begin with? And you found during your deliberations with the finance committee a problem. Restate the problem.
This problem is, this came up by looking at the budget, analyzing different accounts that are well over budget. This was almost 100% over budget, and it was due to just more and more credit card fees. Talk with the finance committee, they backed this 100%, and it's just increasingly going up. And then we talk with Mark to say, okay, what are the other communities doing? And they're all doing this already. I'm not sure what restaurants Brownie goes into, but most of your restaurant I've gone into have that there. I mean, Lucy agreed to that. I think everybody else does too. It's just the way of the world right now. And we're not going to lose any business, because if my kids come down here and want to use credit card, they're not going to leave the pool and go outside to Wendy's outside. So losing business I don't think is going to be happening at all. And just the point of, why should we be paying, the community be paying fees for someone to get points? It just doesn't make sense.
Okay. We're going to move on this. Do we have any other discussion?
Well, again, I want to clarify, the only things that people use credit card are F&B. Is that correct? That's the only things at Sterling Oak?
That's the majority of it,
In your head.
Cezanne said.
What, Cezanne, explain again exactly what people can use credit cards for at Sterling Oaks. I thought it was only F&B, and maybe if you buy something in the tennis shop.
You can use your credit card for anything. You can pay your dues with it. You can pay any rental fees. You can pay your sales fees. You can pay F&B charges. You could buy something in the pro shop. You can use your credit card for any purchase or any fees at the club.
You're telling me I could pay my membership dues by credit card? I always thought we could not.
Yes, you can pay your statement with a credit card. There is a $15 fee right now to pay your statement with a credit
Oh,
card.
there's a fee on it. Oh, well, then in essence, that's like the 3%. Okay, let me state it again. What can you use a credit card with no surcharge or fee on it today? The only thing I think is F&B, right? And
Any
they-
purchase at any terminal, so rental fees, sales fees, can of tennis balls, any food and beverage charges,
That's what I'm saying.
any
In other
tickets
words,
to
the
any
tennis-
events.
F&B.
The only thing right now that there's a charge on is if you pay your statement with a credit card.
You can only pay, you really can't pay your membership fee with a credit card because there's a fee on it, which is like the 3% surcharge. So you're telling me.
Yes, you
if
can pay your statement, you can pay your fee, there is a charge.
Okay, so there's already a surcharge really on a credit card for the membership fee.
If you pay your statement with a credit card.
Yeah, I mean, there's a $15 fee, which is about 2 to 3%. So in essence, there's already a surcharge. We didn't call it a surcharge, it's a fee, but it's, if you look at what the average fee is, at $15 is around 2 to 3%. So we already have that surcharge on that. So we would actually double that. We would now make it 6%, I guess.
No,
So-
no.
No.
Could
That
I,
fee would remain the same. Linda,
Paul?
let's hear from you. Go ahead.
so one thing that pops out in my mind is if someone buys a home here and they pay the capital buy-in fee, which is, say, $5,000. Many of them, they should be told on that estoppel statement that if they pay with their credit card, that there would be this fee, so that they can opt to have that estoppel or that estoppel fee and that application fee and all those fees, the buy-in fee of $5,000, that they can put that on their closing statement and avoid
Yeah,
credit card fees.
I wouldn't be too worried about the sales. 99% of them pay the closing fees by check.
Yeah, you can't do that on credit card now.
Well,
They-
yes, you can when you
take the
phone it
money
in.
however they want.
All right, let's move forward on this issue. It seems to me that it boils down to a good business practice on the part of the HOA versus being kind and nice to our neighbors that we live with in the community. So we have a choice here. We can continue with no fees, or we can charge them 3%. So do we have anything from any other board member?
Well, again, I keep trying to go the other way. Understand we already have a fee on paying credit cards. The only thing that this applies to is really the tennis shop and F&B. I keep, someone brought up, you can't pay the $5,000 fee with a credit card. If you pay your membership fee, you pay a $15 fee. So we're only really talking about using the credit card for F&B and tennis, or not tennis, for buying balls or something in the shop. So again, I think it'll be a big mistake, and forgetting about the economic aspect, I think will have a very negative effect on the community, as Lucy pointed out, particularly if this just suddenly happens and they didn't know about it was coming.
Well, they are going to know about it's coming. No
I
one.
mean, I hadn't heard of this until I saw the packet. This just came out of nowhere.
Right,
Okay.
but it's not going to start today, Brownie. It's going to be, as Paul said, it's going to be email blast. So they are going to know about it.
As a board, we make a tough decision here. This situation, is it a business choice or is it a social choice here? Do we want to keep our neighbors a little bit happier? It's not that they're unfamiliar with this, or do we want to, be fiduciarily honest?
Well, Paul, I don't agree that that's the business's choice. I don't think you can say for sure that the correct business choice is to do this. Why do millions of vendors pay the fee? They do it because it generates business. So to say that it's a poor business choice not to do this, I don't agree with. That's the whole point.
Okay, well,
Why do we
that's your
even have
opinion.
credit cards?
Yeah, that's your
Well,
opinion,
it
Brownie.
seems
You don't
like
agree
the
with it.
finance committee felt differently.
And a lot of the companies you're saying do charge this, Brownie. Just because you don't go to the restaurants that do, most of the restaurants do. So let's move on, Paul. take the vote.
Yeah, I want to
As we
hear,
do this, I'd like to see someone monitor our F&B income and see how it does in the next year after we do this. I will predict it will go down.
Was this on the agenda for a vote?
Yes, it was.
yes.
Okay. All right. Let's vote.
Hold on.
Well, do we have anyone else, or are we ready to vote?
I think
Okay,
let's vote.
Ken?
Yes. I have mixed feelings on this. I
do
agree
too. We all do.
that, if people are paying their dues with their credit cards, there should be a 3% charge on it. But I'm not sure on food and beverage if it's going to impact this or not. I know a lot of people that I talk to use their credit cards to pay for their food and beverage because they get a 2% or a 3% back on their credit card and are not being charged for it. I personally just leave everybody that comes to my family and just put it on my bill, and I pay my bill through ACH, so it doesn't affect me that way.
Exactly. It should be.
I've got mixed feelings on it. I've got people that do it both ways that are friends of mine. I agree that they're taking advantage of the club by doing this.
Yeah, well, I think we all have mixed feelings. The difference is we're all board members, so we've got to make a decision here.
Yeah, I
John,
agree
go
with you.
ahead.
I agree with you, Ken, but why should the majority of the residents pay for, because I want to get miles? I do the same thing, but why should my neighbors have to pay for me to get miles? And I think most people understand that. Just a fiscally responsible thing to do.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. Paul, I
Lynn?
think a lot of people do it just for record keeping too. You can keep track of your credit card bills and you know what you spent. But I also agree that fiscally responsible, I do respect John's proposal.
Yeah, and I think we all have mixed feelings. So it's time to vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Do we have a record, Cezanne?
You do. The motion passes.
You have a recording of who voted and how they voted.
Did you vote,
Yeah.
Lucy?
I did.
Oh, I didn't see your hand. Mhm.
Okay, what's the tally?
7-1.
7-1. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, John.
That's it for me.
Very good. Let's go to irrigation project. Mark, why don't you kick us off and introduce, well, give us an update and then the Sanctuary Point Common Area proposal.
Well,
Wait a minute. Did we set a date of when this is going to begin? Because I think it's got to go out to the community, tell them, and implement this in a month.
Yeah.
Or
That's a good
I don't
point.
think we can implement it before we broadcast it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ken. Thank you for that.
I think
John, what's your recommendation?
Cesar and I talked about this. I think October 1st, that gives us a month and a half to email blast and let everybody know. Right, Cezanne, is that the date?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to start it today. I don't want to start it September 1st. I want to give some time to put it out and test the system on the way Jonas does the surcharge and make sure everything's working before go time. So October 1st would give us, good 4 weeks to get the information out and get the systems in place.
Yep. And when we send this email blast out, we just got to make sure that you can still use your account and not get charged.
Correct.
That's the biggie.
Yep, and
Yeah.
we'll put notices at all the point of sale computers so people are aware that you can pay with credit card with the 3% or free, free of charge if you put it on your member account.
So just one statement. I'm just doing some research, Google research here. We know it's legal to do this.
One thing to clarify, say
Sorry, I have a question that hasn't been answered yet. Just a second.
Yeah, let's,
Because
Yes,
there are
I
some
believe it is
states.
legal. Mark was gonna look into that. I believe he did.
Yes, yeah, I checked with the other clubs and everybody else is doing exactly the same thing. It's legal in the state.
But are they taking cash as an option?
No,
Okay.
no cash at those clubs.
Okay, because there's different states have different laws, and that there it depends if you could take cash or not. So thank you. I'm not full up on US laws there, so just wanted to put that in front. Thank you.
one thing to clarify, Saison, if a person pays their membership with a credit card, they now pay 15 plus 3%. Is that correct?
No, if you
We
use a
didn't make
credit
that
card,
exception.
no,
We
if you
didn't-
use a credit
that
card
wasn't in the
across,
motion.
excuse me, if you use a credit card across the board, there's a 3% surcharge.
Okay, so if you pay your membership by credit card, it
3%.
means you'll get a $15 fee plus a 3% surcharge.
Oh,
No, it's
3%.
3%. That's it.
We didn't vote on that. We didn't vote. You're saying we do away with the 15 fee charge. We didn't vote on that. Point of
Was ever
order.
voted that we did to
Paul.
begin with?
In other words, y'all voted to pass a 3% on use of credit cards. You did not vote to do away with the $15 fee on memberships.
I think that's just common sense. I think was expected to do that.
Let's just do it.
John, if you could make a motion, maybe to say that this eliminates the 15% credit card fee, that
Yeah.
this overrides it.
Sure. It seems silly again, but okay, we'll get rid of the $15 surcharge and just 3%.
need a second.
I did.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
This is getting rid of the 15 with, okay.
Right. Right. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Let's move along. We're at the irrigation project. Mark?
Okay, so I talked with Brownie yesterday, and Brownie, as he's talked to you all ahead of time about the contract, that had the contract been vetted by the board and himself, that he would have seen that Sanctuary Point, because he would have been able to see the maps that don't have any work being done in Sanctuary Point. So therefore, he would have questioned the fact that he knows that those common areas would have been taken care of. So therefore, he feels that it should be part of the existing contract. We have received a quote from Stallman Irrigation for jet and bore. Brownie and I kind of looked at trying to figure out what the costs are related to that. Jet and bore seems like it's around $30 a foot, which we think that also includes the conduit to do it. Several areas within the community have been trenched. In other words, they have a machine that, puts the pipe into the ground behind a tractor with a large hook, and the hook carves a spot, and then the pipe goes down in the ground. So he's asking whether or not, we could go back to Stallman and ask whether or not, rather than, jetting and boring the whole thing, because we know we have to jet and bore under Sanctuary Point Drive and 2 driveways, that we could manually trench the rest of it and save some money possibly on that $17,000. He also, and I think he may say this, is that, and Brownie put words in your mouth, that in talking with Oscar and Steve Hall from Stallman, they wouldn't be able to get to this until the end of the project anyways, just because they're pretty much trying to get the rest of the community taken care of, and these would be ancillary items, and they wouldn't be able to do this until sometime in September or later. At which time we may be able to negotiate a different price and be able to get something for a little less than this. On the flip side, you've all received a quote from Expert to install a time clock, which is the same as what you'd have on your house or on your condos prior to the baseline system being installed, that would run the valves and those heads in that area on a regular time clock, like most of the other homes in Sanctuary Point are currently on city water. And this is potable water. Brownie brings up the point, well, that means that the clock would have to be coordinated at the same time that the water is flowing in the pipe to that spot from the other areas. And how is that going to be coordinated? And because if times change, the weather changes, the timing changes, that the landscape company is going to have to remember that one clock, go down there, make sure that it's in sync with the rest of the baseline system as it is. If we change landscapers, are they going to be able to do that on a consistent basis now? Whatever. So that's what we discussed yesterday. Brownie?
Well, basically, I think what decided is, I looked at in detail on some of the cost. It looked like to me that estimate of 17,000 is high. So there's no hurry. Mark could go back and talk to Stallman, figure out if they could do the trenching instead of the boring, get that cost down. But ultimately, we need to have that on the system, because it would be a nightmare to have everything else in this central, and understand if this is separate, how you coordinate the timing to make sure that you have enough water pressure to actually serve that particular thing. If it's not on the coordinated thing, it would be a nightmare who would do that and how it would be done. I don't know if I understand, but basically you would have this one thing that the water would come from the pump, but it wouldn't be, the timing and all wouldn't be coordinated with all the other points. So I think it clearly needs to be put in the system. So what Mark and I thought with the time, the best thing to do is let him go back to Stallman, see if we could get the price down to something more reasonable, and then address this at a later meeting. They're probably not going to finish the project for another few months anyway, so there's no urgency on deciding what to do about it.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, but looking at it on a long-term basis, I think we need to, in other words, I don't want to have to go to Sanctuary Point and tell them that we went through the common, we're paying our share of the common area, but there's 2 boxes in Sanctuary Point in the common area. And by the way, one of them we're not doing for you anyway. So I think ultimately we have to put this on the system, both from a standpoint of fairness to the Sanctuary Point, as well as the fact that operationally, I think it would be a nightmare to have this one sitting out there where you have to someone has to manually coordinate it with the system with the other boxes that are on the system. But anyway, for right now,
I agree. Let's see if we can get a reduced estimate on this. That makes a lot of sense, and I think we could convince them.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll move this to next board meeting. Mark, you've got 2 things now you've picked up from this board meeting that we moved along. So any other discussion on this item? I don't see anyone. So then let's move along to the pickleball courts. Mark, give us an update, please.
All righty, so yesterday, the paving crew for Fast Drive, which is a subcontractor of theirs, came onto property. And they started checking out the courts. It rained, stopped, it rained a lot yesterday, so they got some minimalistic stuff started. They are tearing down the fences today, and starting their demo work. I'm meeting with Jeff McClure, who's the Fast Drive representative, after this meeting to go over the plans. It's my understanding from the plans that the tennis courts 4 and 5 shall be sharing a common fence with the pickleball courts 3, 4, and 5.
That's correct.
Yeah,
There may be a little gap, but I don't think so.
So Jeff has said, well, you guys need to demo the existing white vinyl fence and take out all those areca palms so that we can put the fencing in and put the paving on it. And I go, well, who's going to do that? And he says, oh, well, you guys are. And I said, is that part of the project? He said, no. So I'm going to talk to him today about what it's going to cost, because I don't have the manpower and resources currently to completely demolish all that 6-foot high fence, pull those posts out of the ground with all of the cement on the bottom of them, then move over to the arecas. And then I have to take and put that all into a dumpster or some kind of haul away and pay for that as well. I think that should be, in my opinion, that should be a part of the project costs. I mean, we can help out as much as we can, but we have other things to do within the community than put all of our equipment, resources, and manpower into working with the existing contractors. I think that they have a demolition equipment down there because they have to rip up the existing concrete and pavement, etc. Anyways, I would think that we could negotiate something for them to be able to do it. That way it's done to their specifications and how they would like to see it done, rather than us going in there and going, no, that's not really what we want. And you guys need to fix this or do that. I think because if the pickleball courts are going to go from where they are here to over here, and this area here, which has fence line and areca palms, needs to be refilled with lime rock base so that asphalt can be put on top of it, has to be part of their project, because that's an ancillary cost to them to make sure that that pavement that's going to be on that area for expansion of those courts is leveled, compacted, and to grade to make sure that it's perfect, so that we don't have any undulations, wet spots, or any other kind of bird baths or anything else that could occur in that particular area. It's going to be hard enough to get that done. Overall, I think that's a part of their project. Second of all, they said that once all of this demo is done, that we have to get a surveyor in to survey the property and make sure that the survey has the elevational points on it, so that they can make sure that the grade that they're planning to put in is there. I don't know which surveyor we're planning on using. I didn't know whether or not the pickleball community or Cezanne or whoever had a surveyor that was going to be used, or if that's part of the original engineering group. Will Liu, I think, who was the lead engineer on this. I don't know if they have a surveyor in their midst. Other than that, I'd have to go out and ask around for a surveyor to come in and provide us an elevational survey with gradient markers to make sure that we were putting those courts into the specific grade that their plans require. So that's what I'm going to talk to Jeff about after this meeting, and try to get some answers about all of that.
So the bottom line is it's going to cost us a little bit more.
Well,
One-
we've known that the surveyors, it's part of the contract. So, I mean, I use surveyors at my house all the time when I do projects. So we'll make that happen. But when we did a proposal, we had a contingency. So I'm sure our contingency will cover the cost to remove the white vinyl fence and the areca palms. I believe their contract includes them bringing in the base rock and the fill to make sure that the new 3 courts are level and graded perfectly for once the asphalt's there. So I don't think it's as bad as Mark just made it out to be. Everything's on track, and it's now in the works, and it's finally moving.
Good. So we want to keep it moving.
Question, Mark, I wasn't clear. What is the fence that is not included in the project to tear down? I'm confused on that. What is,
The white vinyl fence that is currently between the pickleball courts and the tennis courts.
but it's where the pickleball courts were gonna go. I can't imagine it wasn't in the original project. I mean, it's part of the demolition, because there's no way you can plot those pickleballs without that fence being removed. You telling me it wasn't in the project?
I can't answer that question. I wasn't a part of the original project planning. I'm not really, I'm not part of that.
Project shows pickleball courts with the fence gone.
Yeah. As I said, I've taken over kind of being the on-site person until Cece gets back in the saddle. And I'm gonna be talking to Jeff and finding out a little bit more about what's in his contract and what the scope of his contract is concerning.
We need somebody with boots on the ground on this site. And I've asked Mark to be sure that he's on top of this project and he's there physically and monitoring what's going on. So that's what we're seeing right now. We've got some questions, concerns. It seems like Cezanne and her crew had this figured out earlier. I'm glad to hear that we have a contingency for this. It sounds like everything is on course. But I've asked Mark to be the person down there to watch, to ask questions, and to monitor what's going on. John.
Yeah, doesn't happen too often, but I agree with Browning. Is how could this not have been part of it? I mean, you can't put the pickleball court.
Well, I think Cezanne is saying that it was. Cezanne, are you here?
I'm here. I will talk with Mark and Jeff after the meeting to make sure that we're all on the same page. But yes, the plans given to Fast Dry and my on-site meetings with Fast Dry, they knew that white vinyl fence was there presently. So we'll just make sure that we're all on the same page on the demolition that's taking place.
Okay, good. Thanks.
And that in my mind is a very minor issue. So let's see how it goes. And I'm going to ask Mark to keep his eyes open and watch the progress on this thing, because we finally got it moving.
Well, Paul, it may not, depending on what the cost they say it is, it may not be a minor issue. I mean, in other words, we're talking here in generalities. If it's going to cost quite a bit of money to pull that fence down, then it's not necessarily a minor issue. And again, I can't imagine the plot plan shows the pickleball courts, the demolition of that fence had to be in the plan.
I can't imagine removing that white vinyl fence being a financial obstacle to this project. To me, it seems very minor.
I guess the point
I just
is.
think have
should
no
have been in the
fear. Yep, have no fear. We'll take care of it. Mark's on site. I am going to be on site shortly. But have no fear, we will take care of it. If anything becomes alarming, we will make you aware of it.
Okay, let's move to any other questions on this topic. If not, let's move to the community survey. Let me review with you what we agreed to at the last meeting. We thought it would be a good idea to go out to the community, in as much as we did the strategic plan 3 years ago. And I don't think the board is up to doing another HOA-wide survey at this point. I don't think the community is quite ready for a major survey again. We thought we would do a smaller one to test the waters, to see how the board is doing and what direction we should move in the next year or two. And the board agreed to that, and we got Jerry Schoenfeld on board to help us with that project. Now, that was one of 3 requests we were going to make of Jerry. The second one was to do a survey of the tennis membership, again, to see how we are doing and what direction we might or might not take in the future with the tennis program. And then thirdly was the fitness program, and where we should go in terms of fitness, the physical layout, the actual equipment in the room, programmatic effects, all of that sort of thing. So at this stage, we've been in touch with Jerry Schoenfeld. He's quite responsive. He gave us a brief synopsis of what he thought we wanted. In my estimation, it's not quite what we wanted. So we have to get back together with him probably next week. But prior to that point, I'm going to ask the liaisons for tennis and fitness to generate questions, number one, from the tennis committee, and funnel those questions to me and Mark in particular. And we will work with Jerry Schoenfeld to develop questions that will meet reliability and validity standards. Same thing for the fitness program. We want the committee to generate specific questions so that we can sort through them and make sure that we get a good survey percolating. So with that, liaisons, Steve Mara, and who's the liaison for fitness?
Lucy, me.
Lucy,
Is
that's
Steve
right.
there? I don't see Steve.
I'm here.
You must be laying down, Steve. You don't show up.
I'm watching tennis on the TV, actually, Brownie.
All right, so I will ask you to motivate your committees, generate some questions so that we can produce those specific questions in the form of a survey to, number one, the tennis membership. And I would suggest 2 separate ones, one for non-resident members and one for resident members for tennis. And fitness, Lucy, you can sort out, this will be for, there are some non-residents that have access. I'm going to let you wrestle with how those questions should be generated. But
Okay.
I would recommend if you could get those questions to us by, well, what do you think? How long would it take you to generate those questions?
At least a couple weeks. We don't have a meeting until next week, so at least a couple weeks.
Okay. Is that good with you,
How many
Lucy?
questions are you talking, Paul? You got a ballpark figure on how many questions?
No.
No? Okay.
That's fine. I'll get them to you by the end of next week.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good. That's good.
All right. And send them to Mark. And then we will work with the committee and generate questions worthy of a survey.
Thank you.
Any questions on that item? Okay. Let's do activities report. Linda.
Are you muted?
Linda.
I don't see Lindy on the
you're-
screen.
She's muted. She's
Oh.
muted.
There
There
she
you
is.
go.
Okay, sorry. Okay, past events, Friday Dining Weekly with Curb Service, Book Club Monthly, the Walking Group Weekly, and the Cabana Bar and Food Service Wednesday through Sunday has continued through the summer. Looking ahead, in August, we were honored to be recognized as a Blue Zone HOA community. We are celebrating today at 1 o'clock with a ribbon cutting ceremony at the clubhouse. A reception and refreshments will follow the ribbon cutting. All are invited. The dining room will be open with curb service on Fridays. It will be closed on September 5th. Friday, October 18th is entertainment by New York Rhythm. Friday, October 25th is a Halloween themed dinner dance. It should be a lot of fun. The book club will meet September 10th at the club and on Zoom at 1 o'clock. The book is Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. The October book club meeting is October 8th. On October 17th, we'll bring the Sterling Oaks Antique Roadshow. Their experts give us an opportunity when we bring in our items to get their analysis of origin, value, and history. Please remember to bring your heirlooms and items when you join us in the fall. Our first concert in our concert series is scheduled for February 3rd. We'll feature the Collaboration Band. We are planning many new and exciting events, hopefully a comedy show, new Friday night, and pool entertainment with lots of new adventures. We're also looking forward to our 24-25 activities brochure magazine. In addition to the activities, social events, and parties, it will be filled with all the dates and plans for the racket and sports, Blue Zone activities, bocce, cards, meeting, games, pool activities in our community. It is a handy wealth of information at our fingertips. Our next activities meeting is September 18th at 10 o'clock. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Lynn. Any questions?
Can I weigh in on this Blue Zone?
You'd better.
Sure.
Better, because my wife just walked in here, and if I don't say anything, she'll be okay. The Blue Zone is focuses on health and wellness, and it is isn't a membership based, doesn't require any fees or support from HOA
Correct.
residents or members.
Right, we had, Jill had to present what we are doing here that made us qualified. So she's done a lot of work, Jill Sanders.
Yeah, and they're having a ribbon cutting this afternoon, 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
What they've done is to add yoga and a walking group to start. I think this would be appropriate for me to mention, maybe we should resurrect this trail, the boardwalk that we talked about in the strategic plan. It might be a good thing to look at that. Paul mentioned earlier, before the meeting started, about marketing the community. Perhaps we could have a banner created and put that up. I don't know what the codes are on banners, but it'd be nice to have a banner at the out by the front gate, which would indicate that we are a Blue Zone community.
designated.
We can use their logos on our website.
I'm being told we could use their logos on our website too. So,
Perfect.
I think it's good marketing. I think it's the right thing to do. If there's any interest in Blue Zone, there's a good series on Netflix called Live for 100. Basically, they're looking at 6 different cities around the world where people are living into their late 90s, 100. A lot of it just small changes. Mel's Diner is a Blue Zone approved business because they have healthy eating on their menu. So I'd encourage anybody that's interested to check that out. Netflix Live for 100. If you're around and you'd like to go to the event at 1 o'clock, feel free to join us.
Thank you, Rick.
And thank you, Jill.
I will pass that on.
If there are no objections to the banner approach or the advertisement of a Blue Zone for Sterling Oaks, I would suggest that the administration help facilitate that. And hearing no objection from the board, I think you have clearance to do that.
Great.
Okay, let's keep moving. Landscaping. Who's got landscaping?
I do.
You're
The
busy.
committee is, yes, I am. The committee is pleased to report the following updates on landscaping the community. The condo fence line along 41. The committee met with Mike Wentworth from Expert and reviewed this area. Some minor adjustments were made to the design. Expert will remove existing shrubs, install new irrigation, and then add the new plants. Pool fence line. An estimate and sketch were submitted by Expert. As an in-person review was conducted and approved. New pots for the area were purchased and are stored on site. They will be placed in the pool area after the work starts on this site. We anticipate, weather cooperating, both projects will be completed by the end of the month or in early September. The committee will be reviewing all new landscaping in September to ensure it is thriving and to address any problems. That's my report.
Very good. Thank you for that. Any questions?
Question.
Ronnie?
You mentioned new irrigation. Does that affect the irrigation project? Is there a new box or is this just changing the heads within a given area that's already got irrigation?
Mark, help.
Just changing the heads in the existing area and have anything to do with the irrigation project.
So it doesn't add a new box or anything? Okay.
And I'd like to mention that Linda Moxley wrote this report. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, let's move to pickleball. Cezanne, do you want to give this report?
Sure thing. Real quick for the minutes, I don't see Steve on the screen anymore. Does anybody else see him? Is he there?
No.
Okay, let me just note that he has left the meeting. Okay.
So
Pickleball update. Just that the courts have begun, which we've already discussed. The pickleball committee is working on developing a open play schedule for 5 courts along with the tournament play schedule. They're in the process of developing and discussing some activities for the upcoming season. And they are determining how to best display the winners of the leagues. If like the tennis leagues, if they have a winning team, they get a banner on the court. Likewise, pickleball will be looking at the same type of exposure. They are looking to have a welcome back on the orientation for their pickleball on January 12th. And they'll be offering the sponsorships again as part of our sponsorship Sterling Oaks package that we put out. So that's all I have to say.
I would recommend that this shindig in January might be coordinated with like a grand opening that
they're proposing to at least start on the courts, maybe like a ribbon cutting or something of the 5 courts, and then move I believe into the dining room or at the cabana for their social hour.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is let's coordinate with all of us so that we're all part of this and we're not doing 2 of them.
Okay.
Right, it should be for the community. It's a community amenity, right?
Yeah, the orientation is always for the community. Yep.
Suzanne,
Okay.
can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
When was your last meeting?
They had a meeting this week that I was unable to attend, but I believe it was on Monday.
Okay. John was supposed to present the idea of putting sound dampening barriers up because it wasn't part of the original project. Do you know if that was presented?
I did not see any discussion of that as a part of their minutes.
Okay. I'll follow up.
If you would like to send it to me, I'll be more than happy to submit your request to the chairperson.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any old business? Okay, with that, under new business, we have a coffee service request that has come up. This is a little bit like the pool chiller. So, Mark,
Not really. Coffee's not good for you.
it's very good for you.
I need
So
my
the-
coffee.
This comes from the tennis committee. The tennis committee has asked that we resurrect the coffee service in the pro shop, and that it'll be available for anybody who wants to have free coffee to come in and get free coffee from the pro shop, which they say builds camaraderie and helps with social interaction, et cetera, et cetera. So just it's simple. We can do it. It's going to require that the individuals in the pro shop monitor the coffee, because I'm not at all times have either housekeeping or F&B staff here at times to refill those coffees. They're going to have to be somewhat responsible for it, especially if it's during the morning hours. I would say that it probably only runs till 1 o'clock in the afternoon at the latest. The cost overall is probably somewhere in the $10,000 to $12,000 a year range for coffee and supplies. This is going back in the day, over pre-pandemic, we had quite a bit of coffee going out the doors, and cups, straws, sugars, packets of cream, thermoses of coffee, and just general use. I don't have an issue with it as long as all the parties are aware of their responsibilities in this endeavor, and that the cost will just be borne by probably the common general G&A Department 40. It's just going to be an expense to the bottom line with no income associated with it.
Question.
So,
Was the
let's
reason
have
that
a-
it was discontinued, that it was abused there during the pandemic? Was that the case?
Well, it was shut down because of the pandemic. We didn't want people all in space, to try to get in there. That was kind of a, when we got to the mask and we got to everything else, the coffee went away. Is it being abused? Well, certainly. When something's free, it gets abused by certain individuals, not all, but we have some horror stories. But we've lived without it now for 4 years, and that's whether or not the tennis committee. This is the tennis committee's recommendation to improve social interaction, goodwill, and camaraderie within tennis players, and so they've asked for it to be enacted. That some people have asked, well, shouldn't we pay for it? Shouldn't it be $1 a cup? Shouldn't it be this and that? Well, to try to do that, it's probably very difficult for us to monitor and create a barista station in the tennis pro shop to make sure that that's all getting done. So I would say that, we could put a jar there and put dollars in it. We don't want that either, because we don't want cash at the club. So this is just up for discussion, I think.
My question would be, why just tennis? And we just talked about putting a 3% charge on credit card purchases, and now we're going to give away free coffee.
Well, I would say it would have to be for all people. I don't think that you can tell it to be just the tennis players.
Well, let me make a comment here. I'd gotten contacted, nothing to do with tennis, about several people about this. First of all, most of the users of this previously were not tennis players. So I think the fact, I don't want to connect this is something that tennis won't necessarily. I'm sure this came from someone who happens to be a tennis player who may have participated. But most of the people who came down there for coffee were not tennis players, okay, for many years, okay? So
Correct.
I just want to make the comment, don't look at this as a tennis activity, even though they might have requested it.
Yeah, true. I can just tell you, this is from Mike Shields on the committee. And he's basically said that the benefits of offering free coffee at the tennis club, it boosts morale and encourages members to stay and socialize, fostering a sense of community. It enhances your experience by small perks like free coffee, show the club values its members, improving overall satisfaction. It has a positive perception, creates goodwill, and can help justify fee increases by adding value. It's convenient, saves members a trip to offsite locations, making post-match socialization easier, and it revives a tradition to bring back pre-COVID traditions, enhancing the club's atmosphere. Offering free coffee can strengthen community bonds and improve member satisfaction, making the club more appealing even with higher fees.
Thank you.
Paul?
Linda, go ahead.
I have a little background on all of this. We used to have the coffee out where it was in the lobby area. And the card players would get it. People would come up, walk up, sometimes with very big mugs or containers and get coffee and walk back home. But then we kind of ran out of space there, so it got moved into the tennis shop. And I assume the tennis takes care of it and does the work, that Nicole doesn't have to make the coffee and keep that all going, that now the tennis people are doing it. And it would be for everybody. And I know people really, really like that. You know, you go to most of these clubs, and I'm sure Mark can agree with this, and there's usually free coffee. Lots of times there's little breakfast items. There are a lot of perks that everybody gets. I know they're paying big dues probably, but the coffee was a real big hit when we had it. So I think it brought people up to the club, and there was a lot of socialization going on with it. I don't know what Mark thinks about that or not, but people liked it.
I just know that, you know, we don't have F&B staff in here at 7:30 in the morning. The coffee usually is made. I can have possibly our housekeeping staff Monday through Friday start those big coffee pots and make sure that they've got them in there. They would have to be set up and transported to the pro shop along with the cups, the straws, the sugars, 4 kinds of sugars, maybe 5 kinds of sugars, and creamers, a couple kinds of creamers because they like certain flavors of creamers, and then you know, just making sure that it's clean, managed, and all that. And yes, since we don't have dedicated food and beverage staff that doesn't come in, usually they open up the cabana for, you know, to go down there, but they don't. They're not in here at 8, 9, and 10 in the morning. The pro shop staff is, so they would have to be managing that situation on a day-to-day basis.
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
I believe before we did this, maybe till 11 o'clock. Are you anticipating doing this longer? And are we doing it year round, or are we just doing it in the height of season, like say November through April, or are you doing it 365?
All good questions. I'd recommend we do it on the shorter interval.
Yeah.
At least to start things off, see how it goes, and make sure that we're not getting ripped off too badly. What were your other questions, Cezanne?
I just think from our standpoint, we had, you know, we knew like at 11 o'clock when the cabana opened, that free service was gone at that point. If somebody wanted to purchase a beverage after that, they could do so. But the free coffee was taken down, cleaned up around 11 o'clock in previous
makes
years.
Yeah, I don't
That
see
makes-
keeping it after 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because a lot of
Just
people
so
wanted
we're
the
all
free
on the same
coffee
page with
be
the
brought down to
members.
the cabana so they could sit down by the pool and drink the free coffee from a from a thermos down there. So it's just human nature. That's the way it is. So
So it'll be about 10, 12,000 a year, Mark?
Yep.
John Mulligan, you think we can offset that with the 3% on the credit cards?
We're not making any money on the merchant fees. We're just covering the merchant
No, we're
costs.
just covering thing.
That's
I-
a joke.
I-
I'm
right.
just kidding.
Yeah, I'm not for that. I agree with Lucy. Why are we going to attract more? First of all, I disagree with Browning because this is coming from a tennis member, and it's everything he quoted in his email was regarding tennis members and stuff like that. Number one. Number two is why were we going to get more people come in here now because we're offering free coffee? I don't know. I mean, I just think we're throwing money away. Why don't we give free soda too in the morning? I don't drink coffee personally, but I might want to have a Mountain Dew in the morning.
Ooh,
So, it's, I know, I just think you're throwing away money. And if it is, it should definitely be charged to the tennis budget because they're the one they're going to be getting most of it out of the way. So,
Well,
Okay, let's hear from someone else.
let me emphasize what Lydia brought. When we had this before, it was, as I recall, it was in the lobby. And most of the users were not tennis players. They were people who came to the club to get the coffee. They socialized, maybe played cards later on. The tennis members come to the club anyway. So the objective of getting to the club doesn't really work. I'm sorry it came from the tennis committee. I think someone on the tennis committee is just doing it. But this was not a tennis activity, it was used mainly by tennis players. And I think Lydia would agree with that, right, Lydia?
yes, it was used by everyone.
Yeah, it was a lot of people came just for the coffee, not for tennis. Okay.
Any other comments?
I think it was an expense that we used to have that we did away with, not only because of COVID, but because of the cost that it entailed and the help that it entailed to keep it up. If it's going to be in the tennis office, there's a unwritten rule right now that people don't walk through the tennis office just to get something. And if we're gonna do this, then we have to advertise and tell the rest of the community, this is a community thing, not just a tennis thing. And if it's gonna be in the tennis office, then everybody has to understand that it's going to increase traffic in the tennis office, not just by tennis members, but by the whole community. That's my
All
opinion.
good points. All good points.
just as this is why it came up. Because on August 11th, the tennis committee said, "Hi, Mark. At the last tennis committee meeting, several people asked about having coffee available in the clubhouse. Apparently, it was available prior to COVID. Although this was brought up at the tennis meeting, I don't think it was a tennis-specific amenity. So I thought I'd reach out to you to see if there's something that could be reinstituted. If so, would tennis have to budget for it, seeing how it may not have come out of the tennis budget before?" And that's how it came to my desk, and that's why it's on the agenda today.
Okay, do we have a motion on this? Are we ready for a motion?
You
I
don't
don't-
have a present motion.
I don't think so. First of all, if you want it just for tennis people, which apparently they don't, then it should be in the tennis, it should come out of their budget. But it never was. It was always a community thing. And I think that would antagonize the community more than anything, is if it was only a tennis thing, even though they're paying for it. So if you want to move it back to the lobby and make it a community thing, and not worry about walking in the tennis shop, which I think is crazy. It's very easy to walk in there. But the thing about it is you got to say no thermoses. You got to say no big containers. Have them use the cups available. And it is a nice community amenity. That's all I'm saying. I don't really care who pays for it.
So
It
is
was
that a
moved out of the
motion?
lobby during renovation because we no longer have the hostess stand. There was a
That's right.
specific credenza put into the Tennis Pro Shop for the coffee service. I see Mark grinning. I don't think there's anybody that's going to be able to police somebody saying that they can't bring in their thermos and fill it up. I mean, if you guys
but
are paying for it and it's free, it's going to get abused. People are going to do that.
Ridiculous.
So, I mean, I'm certainly not going to tell somebody they can't bring their thermos and get up their thermos full of coffee that you guys are paying for at the end of the day.
Well, I think we can figure out a way to say that.
Yeah.
And I think it's in the tennis shop because it can be monitored. You have somebody at the desk. And we can put a sign right in front of the pot.
Yeah.
John.
Yeah. But to Lindy's point there, yeah, you could say if somebody comes in with a big thermos, okay, that's okay, get the hell out of here. But everybody's using these Lenti cups and everything else now, so you can't say don't fill those up. That's what
It's
everybody's
actually
using now.
cheaper for us for them to use their own cups than to use our cups.
No, I'm saying, but use that. That could be 24-ounce ones too. So it's just, I don't know.
A lot of
I'm not for it either way. So.
Okay. Lindy, make a motion.
Well, Mark should make the motion. He's the one that has.
I can't make the motion.
Mark can't make a motion.
Well, Mark,
It should
I'll
be
make
Steve.
motion that we.
Should be Steve, who's not here, should be making that motion. We don't have to get it started until November anyways. So, but we are trying to put the budget together. So I just kind of like
Yes.
to know whether or not we got to add 10 grand. 10 grand here, 10 grand there. Pretty soon we have an increase in dues. So we just have to.
Exactly.
And 2 pool chillers.
Well, I know, but we maybe increased 10 grand in a couple items today. 10
That's
grand
what I'm
here,
saying.
10 grand there. So
We don't have my
I
fitness
can tell
budget
you
yet.
it's adding up.
it's adding
We
up.
don't
Yeah.
have my fitness budget.
Well, I think for community spirit in the interest of people coming into our club and saying a nice amenity, I think the coffee is nice in season. I think we should have it in season set up in the tennis shop where it can be monitored and warnings of using cups. I make the motion that we try it for one season.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
We have a second. Okay, any further discussion?
Need to clarify that I didn't understand all the details of the motion. You wanna, I just couldn't hear it all.
In season,
Just in season, what
Sorry?
hours?
And
What are
only
the
till
hours?
11 a.m.
till 11 a.m., set up in the tennis room where it's been
Okay,
monitored. It's right there in the door. You walk
who-
right in.
Who's setting it up? I think that's crucial. Who is setting it up?
I think the staff would set it up.
The tennis staff.
No, I think it would have to be the housekeeping staff because they have
Okay.
access to all the,
We'll let Mark figure that out.
yeah.
And limited to
the
cups
only-
only.
The only unanswered question that I will need to know is who is borne the expense, because I've heard both sides.
This would be borne by the community. It's a community, it's available to everyone. It's an amenity.
And limited to cups only that are available at the stand.
Yes.
Yes, agreed.
I think that's going to be pretty impossible because they're going to bring their Yeti and
go.
Stanley cups.
Well,
in.
we can say that and let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
And we've got to get the message through.
If they
That's
want it, they'll deal with it and take the cup. Otherwise,
right.
Right.
All right. any other, we have a second, any other discussion?
I would like to just say one thing. If the tennis committee did this and it was only for the tennis, that would create so much animosity if people couldn't come up and get a cup of coffee. And you've got to say, oh no, that's not for you. That's my only point. Do it in the community.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Hey,
It's
Okay,
3 to 4
Cezanne?
motion. 3 to 4 motion fails.
Motion fails. Okay, very good. Now let's look at date of the next board meeting. Oh, it's September already. The 26th of September,
Wait, no, hold on, it's on it.
9:30,
Thursday also?
Thursday, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, I missed that. I had to get the doorbell here. What was the date?
26th at 9:30.
26th, okay.
And this will still be by Zoom, or will most people be back?
I will not be back until, I'll be back for the October meeting.
Same here.
Okay,
later.
good on Zoom.
Yeah, so we'll do a Zoom.
Good.
Same
Okay.
time?
Say 9:30.
Sounds good.
Okay, very good. Thank you all. Good meeting today. We'll be in touch. Oh,
Thank
we need
you.
we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We need a second. Rick, second. All in
Second it.
favor?